What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest film starring Jason Statham, and that film is called The Beekeeper. Directed by David Ayer and written by Kurt Wimmer, this film stars people like Jason Statham, Emmy Raver-Lampman, Josh Hutcherson, Jeremy Irons, and many, many more. So here we are talking about the latest film with Jason Statham at the center, and when I saw the poster for this movie, I was instantly intrigued, just simply because it's called The Beekeeper. You got Jason Statham on it, and you know it's going to be an action movie. And I actually went into this without having read a synopsis or having watched a trailer, so I went into it pretty blind. I wanted to just kind of see this movie for what it was. Unfortunately, I sat next to a guy at the press screening that chose to tell me what the setup of the movie was, which isn't the biggest deal because we're going to talk about that here, but I went into it purposely to be blind. So with that said, I am going to talk about what this movie is about, so if you don't want to know what that's about, well, sorry, but there won't be any spoilers for the events of this film, of course, just the stuff you can see in the trailers and all that jazz. And most notably, I just wanted a good Jason Statham movie because, quite frankly, I just wasn't a huge fan of the movies he had come out in 2023. Whether it be Operation Fortune or Expendables 4 or The Meg 2, yeah, Jason Statham didn't just have the strongest year in 2023. So here we are now in January with the first film that I've seen with Jason Statham this year, and I'm happy to say this was just good, dumb fun. The Beekeeper centers on Jason Statham's character, Adam Clay, who used to be a part of an organization similar to a character like John Wick. This film, in a lot of ways, is clearly inspired by John Wick, as similar to John Wick, he kind of has a bit of a mystique around him, Jason Statham's character in this film, in the way that people hear about him or know of him and are instantly a little bit fearful because of the various things they know he is capable of. And what makes this film a lot of fun is that it feels like a throwback to action movies of the 90s and the early 2000s. It very much has that feel, and if you're not a fan of action films of that time, then you may not love this film. Something else I really enjoyed about this film right out of the gate is the fact that all the actors play everything straight, but the movie is incredibly goofy and self-aware in its dialogue and in the various ways that things progress narratively and most notably in action, that you can't help but just enjoy the fact that the film is playing it serious in a lot of ways while also clearly being ridiculous. I love that the film was in on its own joke but took itself seriously. It made it just a lot of fun to watch and something that ultimately felt like a fun, dumb popcorn film, and the reason that you want to go to the movies. Something that isn't going to challenge you as a viewer or ask an abundance of you. It isn't something that you're going to be piecing together narratively in your head as the movie is progressing, but more so something you can just kind of watch and root for the main guy as he kicks a bunch of badass people in the face. And that's pretty much what this movie is really all about. The movie centers, as I mentioned, on Jason Statham, who is a beekeeper, and at the very beginning of the film, we're introduced to the fact that he has made friends with an older woman who allows him to rent space in her barn in the back, where he takes care of bees and takes care of the land for her. He just kind of keeps her company, and so he's very happy to do this for this old woman, as she's pretty much the only person in his life who has kind of taken care of him in any way, shape, or form. Well, unfortunately, not too long into the film, though, she is the victim of a scam, an online scam, where all of her money, including money that she was taking care of for a charity, is stolen. This leads to her, unfortunately, taking her own life, and now Jason Statham is out for revenge as he goes out of his way to discover who these scammers are, going up to the top of the tower to find who it was that runs all these scam different call centers, and now you have a Jason Statham movie where he goes and kicks people's ass. And yeah, this movie all in and of itself is just dumb. It's just dumb, good fun. It knows what it is. The title itself, The Beekeeper, is silly because he takes beekeeping incredibly serious, and there is a bigger element to that. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a deeper element to what a beekeeper is in this movie. But what I enjoyed about this film a lot is that it has this very simple and silly premise of this beekeeper going on a rampage who has a particular set of skills, and he's going to show everybody what he's got, and people are fearful of him as they start to learn who he is. But what's funny about the film as well is that it's got tons of dialogue that has to do with bees and hornets and the hierarchy of the bee world and the hive collective as a whole. And I love that this film, again, plays it serious while also being incredibly silly and goofy in a lot of ways. This is a movie that I think is not going to work for everybody, but again, if you're a fan of 90s and 2000 action movies that just know what they are, aren't trying to be anything overly serious, and just want you to sit there, have some snacks, drink a soda, and just have a laugh at some cool, fun action, and have a couple of moments where you can go, damn, that person was fucked up, then I think you're going to have a lot of fun with The Beekeeper. This isn't necessarily a movie I think everybody needs to rush to theaters to go see, but I don't think it's a bad time if you choose to go see it in theaters. But if you're looking for something like that's like an event film or something that's narratively deep, then you're not going to find that here in The Beekeeper. This is a movie that invites you in to just have a good time, a good, silly, dumb, fun time that has a pretty hollow narrative. And the whole narrative part of this film is not what you're coming to this movie for, but ultimately definitely shines when it comes to the fun. And as I mentioned before, Jason Statham didn't have the greatest 2023 when it comes to his releases of films. Things like Expendables 4 or things like Operation Fortune, which were the two movies of his that I saw this past year, unfortunately made my top 20 worst movies of 2023. I never got around to the Meg 2, but from what I've heard from people, it was not a great film and wasn't even as fun and campy as the first Meg movie. And so here we are now with this film. I was just hoping for a good fun time from Jason Statham, and you have just that. Now, some of the other cast members I definitely want to highlight here, most notably are Emmy Raver-Lampman, who plays the daughter of the older woman who unfortunately takes her life at the beginning of the film, who's also an agent in the FBI. She's an individual who initially obviously gets to know Jason Statham's character and now is kind of struggling on whether she needs to stick with the law or allow this man to go after all the people who are responsible for the death of her mother and for scamming her mother. And she kind of finds herself at a crossroads at a lot of points in the film. Josh Hutcherson plays our main villain in the film, who's just a trust fund baby who just is throwing money at the wall to try to fix all of his problems, including Jason Statham, as he comes out and uncovers the fact that Josh Hutcherson's character is kind of the one running all of these call centers. And in the mix, you have Jeremy Irons, who also works for Josh Hutcherson in the mix. And I won't give too many other spoilers on the cast and various characters that are in the mix, but those are the main players that are in this movie. Now, my biggest criticism that I can give this film is obviously I've already said the movie is fairly dumb and narratively hollow. It's not a movie that you're going to for deep story. And on one hand, I really enjoyed that, and in some ways I do think unfortunately it makes the film feel incredibly convenient and predictable. And this is a film that, like I mentioned, is self-aware, and there's an element of this film that is convenient on purpose, and I think that's either going to work for you or not work for you. At times it made me laugh, at times it just felt like kind of weak storytelling or cheap storytelling, most notably when it comes to Emmy Raver-Lampman's character, Agent Verona. Everything around her character and the way that she uncovers information that gets her to the next location is wildly convenient. Again, it's kind of played for laughs at times, but ultimately for me, maybe felt like some cheap writing at times. And I would say that's my biggest gripe with the film across the board. Like I mentioned, its strength is that it's a simple, straightforward, fun, dumb action movie that doesn't require much from you as a viewer and just ask you to just have a good, fun time watching Jason Statham do what he does best. But its negative at times, unfortunately, is that it does kind of lean into just convenient narrative tropes and predictability that can take away from the overall enjoyment. However, I really had fun with the film. I enjoyed that, knowing that it is what it is. I liked that it was self-aware but also played it serious. I liked the action, and the action is really what I want to highlight as the end of this review. There were so many great moments of action in this film. I got to see it in a press screening that also had general audience members in there as well. So while there were other individuals who are critics and talk about movies online in various forms like myself, there were also just regular moviegoers in there, and I got to hear the reactions of the audience, and there were tons of moments with oohs and ahs and people applauding at certain moments because of how badass some of these action scenes are. Now, this is a movie that has been compared to John Wick, and while it does have a lot of similarities to John Wick, I will say that you should, have tame expectations when it comes to the action in terms of comparison to John Wick. This is by no means on the same level of overall action choreography as John Wick, but the action in this film was a lot of fun to watch. And if you're somebody who's maybe kind of a little sour on Jason Statham movies recently, kind of feel like he's lost his luster, this film for me takes it back to why I think most people fell in love with Jason Statham as an action superstar. So definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about The Beekeeper. Sorry if I was rambling there a little bit. Sorry if I said a couple of things over and over again, but this is a movie that doesn't really bring out that reviewer side of me that wants to break down narrative themes or anything like that, because it's not asking you to do any of that. As a viewer of movies, even though I do critique films online, it's nice to just go to the movie sometimes to watch something that just asks you to turn your brain off for an hour and a half eat some popcorn, drink some soda, and watch some people get their ass fucking beat for an hour and a half. And that's exactly what The Beekeeper was. I had a good time with it, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. Did you like The Beekeeper? Did you not like The Beekeeper? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Bye-bye.